James.
Raf.
Welcome back into the regular scheduled programming, James.
I thought we were a week into it. I'm locked in.
Yeah, but 1 week is not a trend.
Yeah, one week does not a trend make.
No, 1 week's an anomaly. 2 weeks is a trend. That's what they say.
I don't think that's true. I'm locked in from day one. Even when we had a week off, I was meditating in my mountaintop temple about future episodes.
What if meta actually stood for meditating?
Yeah, what if? That's the kind of stuff I was thinking about. I was sitting cross-legged and doing, murmuring mantras and whatever, and then I was thinking like, SPACs. We should do an episode about SPACs.
These fools thought it was a metaverse, but it was about meditate.
That's it. And I would pause for like 40 minutes of a time in a deep meditative state, and then I would be like, it's foldable phones. What's going on there?
Not talking about foldable phones, even though it has been heavily requested.
It's been heavily requested by as many as 3 listeners.
As many as the last person we spoke to about 2 minutes ago.
We spoke to someone 2 minutes ago who requested a foldable phones episode. Maybe that's coming down the pipe. But no, we're talking about current events. We're talking about Latin America.
Ah, yes, Latin.
We're talking about Brazil. The battle between Brazil and a favourite repeat guest of Down Round in terms of topics. He hasn't actually responded to our emails. Mr. Elon Musk.
Elon.
But,
before we start, desculpa, não falo português. Tiene cerveja, por favor. Population of Brazil. Give us a guess, your best guess.
It's pretty populous.
Yeah.
It's up there.
It's up there, yep.
I'm thinking north of 100 million people.
Yes, north is correct.
Like 150 million?
220.
Okay.
What's Nigeria? Nigeria's about that, hey?
Nigeria's up there. What's
got more? I feel like Brazil might be just more, but Nigeria might be more.
Yeah. So what?
Let's look up
Nigeria. Let me try to. I'm gonna guess.
The plus or minus on who has a larger population, Brazil or Nigeria?
We're doing okay. Most populous countries in the world are India, China.
Yes.
Then the US at 350 million.
Correct, I believe. Yes.
And then I think after that it starts getting foggy.
Well, because you've got like Indonesia.
You got Indonesia.
Yeah.
That's up there. And then I think Nigeria could be above Brazil.
Well, you'd be right. Nigeria, 230 million people, is above Brazil. It's about 215 million.
Okay. Well, there we go. That's a little bit of...
I didn't fact check the top stuff, but that's my gut says that's about right.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, the...
Then you got your kind of Russias, Bangladeshs of the world.
There's a lot of people in the subcontinent, hey?
Yeah, yes.
Tons of them. Anyway, that's your geography trivia for the week.
Well, we're talking about Brazil here, folks.
And also a little note on trivia. We used to do a little before the show. We would do half of one trivia and then come and record the podcast.
Unless we were coming first,
and then we would stay for the second half. That entire pub, and we can tell you what it is because it was a safety risk before, but we can tell you now because you're not going to come and find us and try to play trivia with us.
No.
We were playing at Atomic Beer... What is it? Atomic Beer Project. Atomic Beer Project.
Yeah, in Redfern. But it's shut down.
It's shut down permanently, possibly as a result of our perfunctory trivia attendance. Could have been the line item that sent them into the red.
Yeah.
Sad to think, but it could be true.
No more trivia before Down Round.
No, that's it. That's never going to happen again. We're talking about Brazil and Elon Musk.
Brazil versus Elon, or Elon versus Brazil.
Yep. Versus X, whatever you want to call it. They're currently in a battle for the future of Western civilization.
The future of free speech.
Future of free speech. And, it's good to do because it's the number one story in tech at the moment. Everyone's talking about this. It gives us an excuse to do a little bit of a check-in on Twitter. I know we've done one, or X, whatever. We've done one kind of recently, but it is, as we're in the middle of the US election run-up and all the rest of it, social media going through the tectonic changes that it's currently going through. X is something that's worth checking in on. But yes, it is the big story. So,
what happened, James?
What happened? Give a bit of context before we get into it. X is the free speech platform that's defending the free speech of you and I
Yeah.
and us to criticize our governments on immigration.
Yes. This
On
is why
anything else, I don't know. But
Elon Musk purchased Twitter, turned it to X for $40 billion so that he could preserve the right for us to say that Albanese is a gay homo or whatever, you know?
Yeah, whatever. Exactly. There's sort of Swiftian satire that we weren't capable of executing on old woke Twitter. So from the get-go, Elon said, I want to be a free speech maximizing platform. And what that means is, and he clarified this at the time, we will obey the laws of a jurisdiction. Otherwise we could get shut down. But we are going to be as free speech as is permitted in any given country or jurisdiction or whatever. And what that has resulted in, as there's been reporting on over the past, year and a half that he's been running the show, I can't remember now, is that he has engaged, or when I say he, I mean obviously X Corp and the people who are in whatever the remains of the public policy team at X. They do respond to requests from local governments and jurisdictions and countries. The big examples that often come up are in India, in Turkey.
Well, not unlike, literally we were talking about this last week. If you're a business that operates in a country and they, in particular, their police or intelligence or government says, hey, our law says this, you have to comply with our law. Surprise, surprise, they comply with the law.
Yeah.
Is that a fair assessment of the situation?
Yeah, well, basically. That's the way they've been conducting themselves. They've got a lot of criticism for this in the past because, again, you're the free speech guy, but when Modi's government in India says you need to shut down the accounts of these liberal activists, you do it. Yeah. So how free can your speech possibly be? And his response to that has always been like, the calculation is that it would be way worse for freedom advocates in India or whatever, or Turkey, if there was no X at all for them to be able to talk on. So yes, we comply in these circumstances, but it's better than the alternative of them having no free speech networks.
Yeah, it's better to die on your knees than live on your knees.
Die on your feet, live on your knees.
No, well, I guess live on your knees in this case, then die on your feet, is what he's suggesting.
It's better to live on your knees than die on your feet.
Yes.
It's a less inspiring saying, I must say.
But that's what he's going for with.
Yeah.
Now, the benefits outweigh the cons.
Totally.
If Erdogan saying, ban these liberals, well, there'll be some liberals who get through the cracks, and it's better that the Turkish people get to kind of talk about the downfall of the best president that country has ever had since Ataturk himself.
That's right. Anyway, but that seems to have gone out the window in this current dispute.
It seems to have gone out the window specifically with Brazil.
So Brazil is in the somewhat unique position of being actually a massive source of reasonably valuable X and Twitter traffic.
Yep.
So there's that.
Lots of users, lots of Brazilians on Twitter.
Tons of Brazilians on Twitter, and we'll talk about sort of the impact of that in a little bit. But basically, X and Brazil have been at loggerheads for a little while, particularly one judge on the highest court, or one minister, as they're called, Alexandre de Moraes, who is a minister on the Supreme Federal Court of Brazil. Basically, the current Brazilian judiciary have been somewhat antagonistic towards X and their influence is like...
Worth pointing out, it's a socialist, leftist, left-wing government.
The Workers' Party is in Brazil. I think this probably plays into it, as we'll talk about. But they've kind of... The Brazilian judiciary and government have been going after X for kind of similar reasons that are talked about in North America and Australia and whatever. Misinformation, disinformation, external influence on elections, blah, blah, blah. There have been a bunch of little battles that Elon's piped up about, but it's currently come to a head because, as Twitter themselves revealed in a special gold tick account they've made called the Alexandre files or whatever about this judge that Elon hates, they posted a document. They were basically told to ban 7 accounts. So Elon has taken this as they refused to do it, wouldn't block the accounts, has taken this gigantic crusade against the country of Brazil. And as a result, Alexandre de Moraes, this minister of the highest court in the land, has issued an order to ban or lock down X in Brazil.
Yeah.
So no one in Brazil can access it at the moment. Access has been cut off. They've been told you can be fined substantially, $10,000 equivalent or whatever, for using a VPN to access it, and you're totally cut off. And now this is all Elon's talking about.
Yeah. Well, we mentioned it in passing, I think, or you mentioned it in passing in a previous episode where, like, Elon's decided to have a fatwa against Brazil or what have you.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, it's played out subsequent to then. I mean, a bunch going on, obviously. Firstly, I think it's worth pointing out for those who aren't up on Brazilian politics, it's been a fairly, like, fractious environment.
Yeah.
Probably for the last kind of, well, some would say for the entire history of modern Brazil. But previous president was far right, came out of nowhere, no one saw it coming. Lots of allegations of corruption and weirdness. Let's be perfectly frank. Bolsonaro, weird guy.
Weird guy.
Weird country.
Brazil's a weird country with
Like
weird politics.
Reinstating the leftist kind of socialist guy now, who was previously in jail and this, that, and the other. Like, we're talking about a very
fractious democracy.
Yeah, exactly. I say this with all love. I love Brazil.
Oh, yeah. You love Brazil.
I do love Brazil.
I've been to Brazil. I was there during the Olympics.
We've both been to Brazil. We both love Brazil, the Brazilian people. I had the best time of my life in Brazil. Well, up there, top 5. Anyway, that political environment, I guess it adds to the gravitas of like disinformation and misinformation when you have two sides of politics who are both trying to use the judiciary against each other at all times, puts people on high alert, to say the least.
Yep, totally. So, yeah, it has been a fractious environment. They've been really laser focused on this idea of like misinformation, disinformation.
And I will say, like, it's a population with a high number of English speakers.
Yep.
Lots of crossover in pop culture.
Yep.
With, America, Western kind of audiences, obviously. Heaps of influence on pop culture, for that matter, which I think leads to maybe potentially why I'm kind of trying to put my finger on, like, why is it that Elon may be more happy to kind of, well, there's another element as well, but like, you talked about Turkey, you talked about India, and where kind of like, okay, we ban dissidents, or free speech is banned in India and in Turkey as far as like Elon's concerned. He's happy to like follow protocol, but not Brazil. I feel like A, there's that cultural aspect may have something to do with it, and B, maybe there's an economic impact as well, where like realistically, what are Elon's interests in Brazil?
Yeah, that's true. Like that probably doesn't have a lot of interest. Plus the fact that like, yeah, it is one of the, by raw numbers, the highest number of users come from there.
Yeah,
in the top, it's like in the top few.
But like, surely that's an argument for like him not.
No, it's true. Yeah,
like, just like rocking the boat.
Yeah.
Because that is funny. The fact that it's number 3 or something.
Yeah, it's like it's very high up there in the number of X users, which is why it's become such a big deal that all of a sudden a giant chunk of Twitter's English-speaking user base has kind of vanished.
And you were saying that like a lot of the fan accounts.
Yeah, well, this was the funny thing. So after it was announced, all these like fandom accounts, this is kind of like well known on the internet, is that I think
come to Brazil.
Come to Brazil. Well, that's, yeah, exactly. This is a classic internet meme. Please come to Brazil. Rihanna, come to Brazil. Taylor Swift, come to Brazil. But I think it's just very well known that in terms of like pop culture engagement in Brazil, that they are very, very intense fans. And this goes to everything. Like, they're very intense football fans.
Yeah.
They're very intense fans of
We
everything.
used to get come to Brazil. Like, and
the meeting
legit,
tree come to Brazil?
Like, and one day and stuff, like legitimate come to Brazil. Not ironic.
Yeah, but the funny thing is when they announced that X was going to be blocked in Brazil, there were all these accounts doing tearful goodbyes, and which included like basically a gigantic chunk of like fandom accounts for everything, like pop stars, anime, comic book characters, the works of Virginia Woolf. Was just like, them doing these kind of like Scooby-Doo unmarking posts, like, I'm actually Brazilian. It's been so amazing working with you guys and having you read my tweets of excerpts from Virginia Woolf books, but I am actually located in Sao Paulo, and I must go.
Like, like that all-time, like one of top 10 kind of posts of all time was that Taylor Swift fan account. It's like, I'm not going to be posting because I'm going to jail.
I go to jail. Well, that one was cool. It's like, because I refuse to serve for the IDF.
Yeah.
See, that's good. Yeah, that's there's the true believers out there.
It is funny to just be like, wow, the person behind this fan account does turn out to be a little.
Yeah. No, although this is like secondary. But I think it's like a function of social media now, is that especially like let's say over the last 5-10 years, and it kind of doesn't get remarked on a whole lot, but like a huge portion of people have come online in the past 10 years.
Yeah.
Like people that have come from developing nations, non-English speaking backgrounds, or non-English speaking countries that have really, really big English speaking populations. People that have sort of entered the middle class or come up out of poverty, have access to computers, have access to telecommunications. And as a result, there's just been the introduction of literally billions of people to the internet who weren't there 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And like when you see these moments where all of a sudden you're like, oh, all these fucking insane K-pop stan accounts that I just get ambiently exposed to, they're all fucking run by Brazilians.
Yeah.
Or you kind of realize, oh, all this like insane AI slop and like weird listicle accounts called like history vids or whatever. And when you're like, oh, a lot of these are actually coming out of like India.
Yeah.
Like a whole ton of English speaking people in India who are absolute hustlers and grinders and know how to play the content game. But just by being on X, so much of your media diet is coming from completely different countries and users who were on the internet 10 years ago. I think it's interesting, like under-described phenomenon.
Yeah, as well as like, so therefore the people who are the providers of entertainment are this kind of, as you say, ambient kind of reflection of culture. Once again, to get to Baudrillard, but like in this simulacra of culture where it's like people who, because they speak the language and they're obviously culturally competent enough, are just reflecting back to the audience like, here's the type of content that gets heaps of engagement.
Yeah.
As a business or whatever. But then it's like, what percentage of your actual entertainment diet is just like, these kind of weird accounts that operate as businesses that can scrape a bunch of like minute amount of revenue at the margins.
Yeah.
By just reflecting like what entertainment is supposed to be back at you. Anyway, way off piste, but
no, it's kind of relevant because it's like, again, when this sort of thing happens, and a giant chunk of accounts, many of them that were like super popular, engaging with people in the US and Australia and whatever, you're like, oh, fuck, this was because I think before this argument happened, and there was a running joke on X at the moment where people were kind of like, did not realize how many of the people I were following were Brazilian.
Because you don't think everyone in your mind is, well, at least in my mind is probably Australian or American.
That's true. Yeah.
And maybe British. Like in your mind, like a Taylor Swift stan account or whatever it is, or even a K-pop stan account, I'm assuming it's just like some weird Australian or American or British person. Less so British, but I'm assuming basically everything's American.
I never assume Brits because they're on complete opposite time zone to us. So it's like
unless the only Brits is like when you see weird Scran stuff or whatever it is.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, footy Scran. You're like, okay.
But it's like I'm basically assuming that like, and then occasionally I'm like, oh, European. That's nice, but I'm assuming they're American.
Well, actually, you realize, and this someone also pointed this out today, is just like French people just exist on their own internet.
Yeah.
Like they have even though maybe most French people speak English, but they seem way less inclined to engage with.
Yeah, I was thinking about the French actually as well the other day because I was thinking about it in the context of like they have a very sophisticated technology scene, right? Like
they do.
A lot of startups come from France. Obviously highly educated. They were on the internet a long time ago with their téléchargeur or whatever the fuck it was called. Like they had their own, phone to phone internet kind of things. Obviously, they do a fair bit, but they would have had to learn to code with like English. You know, like if you're someone who's French who they learn English in high school as like it's an obligatory subject, but like they're not necessarily good at speaking English. But you still have to learn freaking JavaScript or whatever with like the commands and stuff are still written in English.
Well, it's the same as like if you're a software developer in Japan, you basically have to know English.
I think there's like some of the best hackers, like top 5 hackers in the world, are like North Korean.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like
they had to sit there and learn English so they can. Although I guess like it's all fucking.
It's more mathy.
It's all signs and symbols and whatever. Like you don't have to actually.
But it's still supposed to make some kind of sense. Like as in, it was written to make sense in English. You know what I mean? Like code is written to make sense.
Yeah, no, totally. It's like English is like the lingua franca of coding because like everything, all the language is sort of built in it. Anyway, to close this thought, I did because as I said, going back to the thing, French people, they only speak French online. They don't really cross over. And automatically, like, generally speaking, platforms like X and Facebook and whatever will...
They just won't show you.
It filters out anything that's not in your language because, like, that's friction that they keeps you engaged for 3% less time. So they're like, okay, unless you explicitly ticked it, we don't show you. But I saw someone, like, post a screenshot that were like, French Twitter is so different and yet so like us. Because it was like, it was a picture of a meme and, like, someone had replied, le bagger. So, wow, they're just like us. But then you get to countries like India, Brazil, where they're like, we want to be speaking English, we want to engage with the culture. Anyway, getting back to the central point of all this. So at the time of recording the episode, still banned, can't use a VPN to access it. And Elon is just like, he's kind of forgotten about the US election for now.
Yeah.
Which was his previous posting obsession, like supporting Trump. And he's going hard into this. Now, he has obviously seen all the posts of people calling him a hypocrite because, as we said, he's honoured takedown requests from the Indian government, the Turkish government. There's a few other ones in there where he's abided by it. But the reason that he claims that he's not abiding by this is that he thinks it's against Brazil's law and against Brazil's constitution. So he's sort of like, we said that we would abide by the local laws in a given jurisdiction.
And we are.
We are, but they're not. The judge isn't following the laws. So we have no choice but to fight for the Brazilian constitution.
Yeah.
Which is, I think it's just...
Maybe he's just really into constitutions.
Well,
right? Like, that's where you end up, where it's just like, all constitutions are beautiful.
That's it. That's it. Although, I think it just comes down to the fact that, A, he's increasingly red-pilled.
Well, that's it. I honestly think so much of it is that in Brazil, it's a leftist government at the moment, and, like, whoever the people in his ears are, David Sachs, I don't know, whoever it is, are just like, these people bad, like, we must...
Yeah, I think he's really just like... I think he's gone more and more insane about the advertising thing. Like, I think he is less and less convinced that Twitter is going to be a profitable product, or like X is going to be a profitable.
Yeah.
Because, like, he's not talking about... So, one hand, he's like, I don't know, I can't remember if we talked about this on the show, but he's launched lawsuits against the shadowy ad body.
Yeah.
That he says act as like a cabal against him, cartel behavior.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's cartel, not cabal, but sure.
I think cabal captures it. It's got a bit more like shadowy Rothschild kind of vibes.
Yeah.
But maybe that's how he thinks. But like cartel behavior in like denying him ads based on lies. He's also suing like Media Matters, like that liberal media analysis and advocacy group.
Because it should be illegal for you guys to get together and decide that you don't want to advertise on my platform.
That's right. But apart from that, and like, as we talked about, I feel like the ads are just getting worse and worse and worse. They are absolute shit tier ads at the moment.
I honestly think that there must be, you know how there's like third-party ad networks or whatever that will... Someone should do some proper research into this because I'm not just speculating. I feel like Downround broke the story 6 months ago that Google ads were appearing on, double-click ads were appearing. I now honestly think, again, now this is speculation. That was fact, and we broke that story. That third-party ad networks that distribute double-click ads, because you can, be a distributor on like to third parties and on-sell the advertising space, are on-selling to Twitter, which is why you end up with those weird domain ads and these weird ads that make no sense. Like, there's no context whatsoever because it's made for a completely different context. Like, it's bottom of the barrel advertising now. Like, it genuinely feels like a scam blog. Like, the quality of the advertising.
Yeah.
Occasionally it's fine, but like, there are obviously these... Point being, it's like advertisers who are doing deals with a different party who's on-selling it to a different party who's finally ending up on Twitter/X because it's so damn cheap and they can scrape so much margin like through those parties.
Yeah,
that's what my gut tells me.
Yeah, I am. Although, to be fair, I just tried to do a beloved downrag segment where we just open our phone and read stuff on it. Although I must say, the ones that I'm seeing right now as I do that are not quite as bad. I mean, there's a lot. I'm seeing the same ones over and over as I scroll. They're like, there's this like a New Zealand-based macro research place that has like a bunch of charts you can download. There's one that's about like some sort of B2B cloud business. These ones actually look relatively...
Well, so this is the ones I've been getting. Plumbers to You, Northern Beaches Plumbing, and just a photo of a bathroom.
Okay.
You know, like just as well as I happened to go to I was looking up Lotus the other day because I wanted to know if they'd been bought by a Chinese company, and they hadn't been. But I do get pumped with Lotus ads now on Twitter, which is nice. Like people who are interested in buying a Lotus are getting...
See, I mean, this stuff I'm like eToro and stuff. This is not too
and
bad.
HelloFresh and CMC Markets.
So
there's heaps of broker stuff. Kraken, I get a fair bit.
Well, this like
there are legit things.
Yeah, but then there's a lot of crypto-y sort of stuff. I think the ones that I'm really thinking of is that there's a certain ad unit, and I think you must be able to buy it separately because I see different ads there. But like the reply ad unit.
Here's the ones that I'm talking about.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah, it's like a
screenshot.
Is that actually Domain? Sorry, I just clicked on it.
It is. It's an ad for Domain. For a house value guide is $6 million. But like it's literally just a screenshot of the top of a Domain listing of a house, no context whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
That's the weird shit I get all the time. Anyway, so point being,
point is this:
X is not doing well. I don't know if removing your third biggest audience
helps. But I think the point is that he's suing people. Dog shit tier ads. The New York Times actually did a feature, sort of like blow-by-blow article about the rollout of the revamped blue check system.
Yeah.
Which was like a full-on feature article about everything that happened behind the scenes. Actually, I'm just going to read one line from it because I saved it so it was funny. This is in the New York Times. When Mr. Musk re-entered the room, the chatter died. No one had expected him to be with them for so long on launch day, but he picked through the snacks, at one point eating half a donut in a single bite.
How big is the donut?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, but I have to assume American-sized donuts.
Well, I would assume American-sized donuts are pretty big.
Because if it was like a Donut King cinnamon donut, half of one bite is not outside the realm.
Yeah. But if it's like one of those kind of ones that has a flat top and bottom that's half kind of pink or whatever.
Yeah, it's like a full-on pink, and it's like thick.
And thick?
As thick as a book. That's problematic. Or impressive, I don't know. But anyway, the point was just talking about like the New York Times was using it to illustrate like the really shambolic way that he operated at the time, eating donuts in 2 bites. But also the fact that like there was kind of this instructive stuff about how people dealt with him. And this whole idea of like, if you wanted an idea to get through to Elon, you would have to get him one-on-one. In a one-on-one context, he's normally pretty magnanimous and easy to talk to. But if you pitch anything in a group environment, he will just big dog you.
Yeah, right.
And because he obviously wants to be relatively dominant in any kind of like team environment. Anyway, so there's a little tidbits about that. But the whole point was it was a really shambolic rollout of making Twitter blue. And it kind of talked about it being the beginning of the advertiser revolt. Because all of a sudden you had like Nintendo with a blue tick saying the size of Mario's penis or whatever.
Yes.
I mean, everyone remembers the early days of that. But the point is like that I'm getting at is that aside from all his lawsuits and complaining about advertisers and whatever, it seems like he's kind of fucking given up on it being
a thing at all.
Yeah. He's obviously they're working on Grok with XAI. Yeah. And the latest release of that seems quite good. I mean, like, it's not blowing it away, but it's certainly better.
Yeah, but it's not as we talked about regarding AI in general, like, it's unclear whether the subscribe to have access to one of these models is even a business model at all.
Yeah. And I mean, literally at the moment, all the Grok seems to be useful for is like doing really annoying posts in that grating voice he finds funny, or like uncensored image generation, which is funny.
It is funny that you can do some like...
You can do some pretty buck wild stuff with the Grok image generator. Yeah. Stuff that you would get censored for anywhere else. And it's not the best looking of them all, but it's
fine.
It's fine.
But I would expect to get that stuff for free somewhere nowadays, honestly.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Or in with my other subscription. Which leads us to I think, like, what's going to happen with the Brazil Twitter thing right now. Because right now, the situation is Twitter is banned in Brazil. That's not good for Twitter. It's not good for Brazil.
No.
I mean, it probably is good for Brazil. You know, it'd probably be better if they, much like the Chinese or whatever, like released a Brazilian version of Twitter and just kind of helped you become like a better member of society, smarter, more intelligent, and, you know, contributing to the people and community around you.
Yeah.
But short of that, in lieu of that, realistically, you know, do we really think that Twitter is just going to be banned from here on out in Brazil? Probably not.
Probably not. I mean, I think yeah.
Because Elon is saying that he is going to put up Starlinks all over Brazil and give everyone access to Twitter via Starlink or whatever.
I think the point of what I was saying is that I feel like the commercial imperative of X has kind of gone out the window.
Yeah.
All the payment shit he was talking about obviously doesn't seem to be happening. But he seems to be now even more keen on it as like a cudgel, like a political cudgel.
But against, like, just to deal out his whims.
Just to deal out his whims, which, you know, is what everyone kind of talked about. They're like, oh, he's going to buy Twitter so he can use it as a megaphone for whatever demented shit he wants to talk about.
Yeah.
That's basically come to pass.
Yeah.
He is the gravitational center of the website. It's
I feel like it's becoming more and more removed from the actual zeitgeist of society. Like, in that I think that it's still a quote-unquote important platform. And you do hear things and learn things, and it probably does have some impact on, like, broader culture. But I think that impact is lessening, like, by the week, in that it does, at least to me, as a layperson, but a voice of Middle Australia, I do feel like the
voice of Middle Australia. I think
it feels like it's becoming more ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, and you start to get more of a vibe of like, there's craziness going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I agree with you. I think it's still an important platform, and there's still like important discourse that happens on there just by virtue of the fact of the people that are posting on there. But I think it's become way narrower, but like way more intense in the areas where it is influential. Like, I feel like it speaks to way less people, but the people are like the specific kind of like, I guess you could say, right-wingy, I don't want to say countercultural, but like that kind of vibe, tech adjacent, a certain slice of politics, a certain slice of business, kind of like your Bill Ackman red pill types.
Yeah.
Like that section of society is now so intensely addicted to it and laser targeted. I guess maybe that's what it was like before, just with like liberal leading journalists or whatever, and people who were like right wing were looking at it exactly the way I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it is kind of on another planet.
Yeah, I mean, that's the feeling. I just feel like it's, yeah, as you say, maybe it was always very detached, and I think that's a fair criticism to say that it was very detached, but it feels more detached than ever. And yes, maybe that's because maybe as a globalist,
yeah, exactly,
I aligned with the former.
As a rootless cosmopolitan, but like, you know, because I don't know, and again, maybe exactly the same as we just said, but perhaps we could level this in the opposite direction as to what it was before. But like, I can open X right now.
Oh, I'm going to see the F slur and like repeatedly. Or like printed in big letters on images.
Oh, absolutely. Or just see like, I don't know, like other people have talked about this, but just like completely demented racism against Indian people.
Oh yeah, at the moment that's big on Twitter. It's
that's
just
huge.
Being insanely racist against Indians.
Yeah, like I'm just seeing post after post after post after post like that. And you're looking at it, and first of all, you're like, why isn't Coca-Cola advertising here? Why isn't Pepsi getting amongst it?
Yeah, like, yeah.
But also, it's just like...
Why isn't Dove doing some ads?
Well, like, you know...
Procter & Gamble and whatnot.
Yeah, you know, back in the day, you would open Twitter and you'd see there was a new person being cancelled, and everyone was sort of piling on, and they were all getting... Probably not all that healthy, but now I open it and I see just, like, the most demented thing you've ever seen about raw milk.
Yeah.
And I'm like...
But look, I think we need to make predictions, though, about the Twitter Brazil stuff. Someone's going to have to back down or come to an agreement, I believe.
That's probably true, but I guess...
I think Elon will say... I actually don't know how they get out of this.
Maybe he'll get bored of it when he gets inevitably sucked back into caring about the US election again or something. Maybe.
Yeah, but like I feel like they've probably got to ban those people for like the Brazilian judges to be like... It's allowed again, right?
Yeah.
And that probably isn't going to happen.
Yeah, well, now that he's kind of locked in. Although
is Glenn Greenwald still living in Brazil?
He is, yeah.
Is he he should get fined for using Twitter. I like. Sorry, he's got his ups and his downs.
He's a singular person, Glenn Greenwald.
He's done a lot of good. He's done some questionable things.
Whether he was doing good stuff or bad stuff, the posting was always insufferable. I think
This is true.
We can always agree. He's got a real posting tone that just it's nails on chalkboard.
But if he starts getting fined 10 grand a post, maybe a little bit of good came out of this. Stick to the articles, pal.
Exactly, or the Rumble show or whatever.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know, but it is basically, to me, it just comes down to Elon Musk being more confident to flex his like weird politics stuff, being really interested in using it as I said, like a cudgel to enforce his weird, you could say free speech maximizing, and like there's evidence suggests that he is very much in terms of free speech, but also he's got a lot of other fixations that are floating around as well.
Yeah.
Like he's become just like a boomer.
Yeah.
He's become a right-wing boomer in the way that he talks about stuff.
Well, like at the moment, his seemingly, other than Brazil, his like number one obsession is whether ID should be...
Voter ID.
Yeah, voter ID stuff at the ballot box, and like the Democrats importing illegals to help them win.
Illegal immigration stuff.
Basic tier stuff.
Yeah, totally. But he's become an average right-wing Facebook boomer, except he's posting on X. He controls that platform.
Yeah.
And I think he's becoming more and more attuned to the fact that he's kind of like, well, this shit is never going to make money.
Yeah.
I can talk about unregretted engaged user minutes, or whatever insane metric he's using to show that it's actually more popular now than it was before.
And then remind us all that he also has a company that wants to implant things in our brains.
Well, yeah, exactly. But I think he's more just like, all right, I'll make money from Tesla. I'll make money from... Because the Wall Street Journal did that article recently where they talked about all the banks that piled in on the deal have written down that their investment to an insane degree. And it was actually funny. A whole bunch of bankers missed out on their bonuses purely because of the X deal.
Yeah.
And then and basically it went into the motivation of like, why did they back it in the first place? Because the business case, A, never stacked up.
Yeah.
B, he was trying to get out of it.
Yeah.
So he didn't even really believe the business case.
So why would you loan?
Why would you do it? And it was literally all down to the fact of like...
They want to keep like extending loans to Tesla,
Well, keep him on side. Like the brand value of being in a banking relationship with the world's richest man who's considered an incredibly phenomenal entrepreneur is worth the downside risk. But now they're kind of sitting with this gigantic fucking turd on their balance sheet, which is never going to make money again.
No.
In the absence of some absolutely dramatic change.
No.
And maybe that's what he's trying to fire up or something with like repeated, like really working his way into... But again, it comes down to like, there's the Brazil fight, but surely every country is looking at this and being like,
no one is looking at X, Twitter, and being like, there's a great opportunity here. Well, other than scammers who are like, ads seem to be cheap.
Yeah, but I mean, like, in terms of being like, oh my God, is he going to come after us for something now and get us into a big, weird shit fight where all of a sudden we are now embroiled in like a daily battle with Elon? This happened with the e-safety commissioner and whatever here. Again, e-safety commissioner.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
They got in a big fight. It was about the video of the priest getting stabbed.
Yeah.
At that church in Western Sydney.
Yeah.
Again, he kind of lost interest in that and moved on, which will probably happen again now.
Yeah, except that the cards are more in the Brazil. The only thing that's different about this is like he got mad at Australia, but like Brazil is asking him to mute/ban these people. Will it just like kind of happen and he just doesn't mention it? Like I just don't see how they move on from here without him having to acquiesce to.
Yeah, totally. And
maybe that's just what happens. It's like everyone loses interest and like subtly.
Everyone moves on. Because again, this has been ongoing for a while and they've sparred for a while. But I don't know, he seems really intent on unseating Alexandre de Moraes for being a traitor to Brazil, which again is just so fucking crazy.
Yeah.
He's like a Canadian, South African, American guy sitting there trying to like unseat the Brazilian judiciary via his platform. And, to me, this seems like a far more dramatic intervention in politics than he accused the old Twitter of doing through like Twitter files or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, his influence seems like it's way more on the surface at least.
Well, yeah. If you, dear listener, are a Tesla shareholder, surely this is exactly what you want your CEO.
This is what you want to be doing. Yeah?
You want your CEO to be doing this stuff.
Yeah. Can you fix full self-driving? And where is that fucking humanoid robot you've been building?
Where's the $25,000 EV, Elon? Oh, sorry, you're busy.
Yes. You're busy trying to overthrow the government of Brazil. Thanks, mate. Hey, Raf.
Hey, James.
Did you know that you can get an extra episode of Down Round every single week on top of the one that you're already getting?
Yeah, I knew that.
Well, yeah, obviously you know, but the person is, I'm using you as a vessel to explain.
Sorry, as I'm the listener. No, go on, tell me more, James. How much does it cost?
A mere $7 a month, Raf.
Okay, where do I go to find out more about this?
You go to downround.net.
Okay, I want it.
Well, I'm sure you do.
I feel like I'm missing out by not having it.
Exactly. No ads. Second episode per week, and a few other little goodies that come in down the pipeline as well. Head to downround.net.
Downround.net.
And sign up to Downround Premium.